Hi, and welcome back to my workshop. I'm Tony, still trying to build this tank, late variant Tiger 1 1:6 scale from Armortek. So in my last film I was preparing the wheels and the lower hub ready for painting, priming and painting. So since then I've done quite a lot of work. Finished the assembly of the wheels, which was very time consuming. And then I set about sort of priming and painting. So the wheels are now complete and ready to go on the tank. So here they all are, completely finished. Really pleased with the overall look and feel. I'll send you. I'll put the link on the bottom for the paint that I've used. This is the official colour of the North African core Tiger of 1944. So and then I've already started putting some of the torsion bars onto the tank, which I'll show you in a moment. And these are the main axles, which are all ready to go in. As if you remember from before, I've gone ahead and marked up the axles, which whether this is an X or a Y or a 5mm or 5.5mm. And then what I've done is on the tank I've also put the corresponding numbers that I need to concern each torsion rod, so I don't inadvertently put the wrong one in. As you can see here, I've got them marked and the corresponding torsion bars are fitted. So what I've done here is I've elevated the tank using some plywood. I've used my sort of set square to set up an angle for 30 degrees, which this is perfectly, and I've set the depth of this so that it is perfectly at 30 degrees, so I can work on this without worrying about the angle changing. Now I'm not saying it's an absolute perfect science, but it seems to work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit a couple of torsion bars in real time. It's pretty straightforward. I think the key really is just to make sure that you study which bars, which size diameter rods you're going to use. Make sure you mark them all so there's no confusion, because it's very easy with a lot of components, and once you start the build and start doing it, you could get confused. So it's well worth the investment of time front end to label everything up. So I'm going to go on now and I'm going to start doing a couple of torsion bars in real time. So right, so we're going to do the next torsion bar. As you can see, it's labelled at an X5, and I've got the corresponding location marked here as X5. I'm going to insert, so this is the 5mm rod. So I'm going to insert the 5mm rod flat side down, so I can secure that with the two grub screws here. So leave that on there for a moment, and then I'm going to go and get a couple of M4 6mm long grub screws. Get them ready, because I won't put them in just yet, because once you've got the grub screws in, you won't be able to pass it through the hull of the tank. So what I do is I'll just make sure that's on the flat side, and it is. I'm going to pass this through, and then the opposite side I've got the corresponding retainer, which is also I've marked up as a 5. That goes threaded side towards the other side of the hull. That goes into that slot like that, and then just going to line that up. So I've currently got the torsion bar or the axle pointing vertically to allow me to fix the grub screws into location. So I'm going to just, because once it turns you won't be able to get to them, so that's nice and in position. I've got it reasonably tight up against the hole and then just off a little bit, and that's going to go in, and I'm going to get as tight as I can. And then the next one, a bit of thread locker on it. It's quite difficult to do this when you're filming. It's not easy to do it when you're just getting on with it, but I thought you might find this interesting because it's not that clear sometimes on how you get these in with the right degree angle. So that's there. It's still not secure to the other side, obviously. I'll turn that so it's flat. Put the opposite grub screws in now. Those are always awkward when you got the camera on you. That's nice and tight. Now these are currently, this torsion bar is, you can't see it in the view here, but this torsion bar is currently vertical because you wouldn't be able to attach, you wouldn't be able to tighten up the grub screws on here if I put it into its position. I'm turning it down to its 30 degrees. You can see can't access it. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to rotate that back up. I'm going to tighten everything up. It is, and then we're going to fix one of the M6 25mm bolts, and that goes in from the opposite side. So I'm going to go out of camera shot using the appropriate Allen driver. I'm just going to tighten that up now. Rotate it before I tighten it up. Now come back round, position it into its, if you can see that turning, position it into its 30-degree angle, and then get this as tight as possible. I'd say as tight as possible. That's it. And then I'm just going to check the angle. That's perfect. And the final fixing detail is an M6 grub screw that then locks, hopefully it almost as a secondary, into this position here. And that's nice. So a couple of things to point out before I started doing the torsion bars and before I went to paint it. I looked ahead a little bit, and these are the stands that support the battery panel that basically sits on top of the torsion bar system. Now I thought, well, if I'm going to be painting this tank, and also because it comes through onto these plates here, you can't get to fix these with these plates in place. So I had to remove the plates. I pre-ordered the battery because it doesn't come with the main kit. So I pre-ordered the battery, sort of the panel and the standoffs. Install those. They don't interfere with anything you're doing with a torsion bar system. Now I'm just thinking that if you went down the line and it was you're much further down the line of the build, and you've painted it and you've got it, and now you realise that these have got to go in, you'd be turning the tank over when it's a very heavy thing altogether to remove these plates and install these. Now obviously a seasoned builder would know that, and a seasoned builder would probably not even put these plates on, but in order of the instructions for Armortek, that's how you follow it, and that's so that's one of the early mistakes I made, but I've rectified it. So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to carry on putting the torsion bar system in, and I'll probably sort of speed this up, but hopefully that was of interest, and you found that useful. So I'll carry on. So that's the torsion bar system installed. Fairly straightforward. Just takes a bit of careful working out. I wouldn't certainly rush this stage. It's quite important. That's both sides done. The next stage for this will be the installation of the idler wheel, which goes in here, and is currently on my secondary bench waiting for installation. And then following that, it will be the installation of the main sprocket, which I've assembled, or certainly part assembled, one, and a little bit of the track system just to see if it binds correctly, and it does. So I'm happy with that. So considering I've never done anything like this in my life, I do find it a bit daunting. And I'm sure if you've never built one of these, you will as well. But just again, I know I keep saying it, just be patient, take your time, and if you make a mistake, you can go back. It's not a problem. I've made a few of those, and I've just taken a couple of minutes out and rethought it, and just refixed it, because I think once you get beyond a certain stage of this, it'll be too late to fix that mistake. So just double check everything before you start and when you finish, just to make sure. I mean, you know, just simple things like the direction of these axles. You know, they're running in one direction from the back to the front in this direction, but on the other side they operate, or they install at the opposite direction. But it is fairly clear in the instructions, and there is quite a lot of information on YouTube. Now the next thing after that, actually before I put the sprocket wheel on, it will be the installation of the wheels. Now I've been pondering and the best way to do that, and I've worked out a few ways of doing it, and I've come back to the only way I could think of, and I'll be covering that on my next video. So once again, hope it wasn't too boring. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, subscribe or thumbs up. And again, it's me, Tony, trying to build a tank.